My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelt uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back to another episode of DUK Dogs, everybody. I am your host, Josh Miller. And we have some fun stuff that we are going to talk about here today. So before I get into it, I want to make sure to thank our great sponsors that make this episode or this podcast possible. Thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba has a great new puppy formula that is just being released here this week. And so go check it out if you have a puppy, if you have a growing, developing dog. I mean, I can say for a fact that they spend a lot of time building this out and making sure that it is a great formula, and it really is. So, Puppy Pro. So go check out Eukanuba Puppy Pro if you have a dog that fits that. So, thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is, all around everyday gear, hunting gear. I mean, I'm running around the turkey woods as much as I can in it right now. And if you're a turkey hunter, I know that's kind of odd to talk about in the show, but if you're a turkey hunter, they have a great new turkey system that is made to make it so your mosquitoes can't get and bite through your shirt, protecting you that way. Has a way that it keeps ticks from getting up underneath your pants. I mean, it's that insect shield is just unbelievable, and it has saved me a lot this year. So go check them out. They put a ton of research and development into their products, and so I just can't speak highly enough about them. So www.sitkagear.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel. As we're heading into these summer months, make sure you check out the fan to keep that, keep your dog in that crate cool and comfortable. And also the kennel pad, make sure that your pup is riding in style and also riding comfortably in there. So www.luckyduck.com, and thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs. So hope you guys are having a great week. I am, because it finally feels like training season up here. And so I've been really, starting to hit it hard, really enjoying being back outside. I know it might sound strange for you guys that are in the South that have been enjoying this weather for some time, but it wasn't too long ago that we still had snow on the ground. And so it's just one of those things. We went right from winter to summer, it seems like, and but we're loving it. The dogs are loving it. It just feels good to be out and being productive here in the training field again. But you guys have heard me talk a lot about Retriever Roadmap, and you guys have also heard a number of times Bret Ayers come on the show and talk to us. And I always feel like anytime that Bret's in town, it's good to bring him on here. One, because I think you guys might get sick of just listening to me talk and not have another voice to kind of break this up. But then two, it's just kind of fun to have a conversation, have some dialogue here. So Bret is in. Bret is the one that is the mastermind behind all of the shooting of the content for Retriever Roadmap. And so he continues to come up and continues to build more content, to put more routes, on the roadmap, for people to find, puts more content out there. And so he is here this week doing more of that. And we wanted to sit down and talk to you guys. So keep listening, because we have a surprise for you guys here. We'll say halfway through the show. That way you don't have to listen to the back half if you don't want to. But so Bret, thank you for taking the time. And I know we have a crazy busy schedule with our itinerary of what we're trying to get done this week. But I appreciate you sitting down and hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's always a blast coming up here and being a sit down and, of course, talk dogs.
So weather-wise, are you guys are way ahead of us in Ohio, right?
Yeah, we finally turned the corner. It was cold, up until probably about a month ago. Then we finally started turning the corner. We did have some days that dipped back down, but it really started to feel like spring. Um, but super wet, and we just, even going out training, it seemed like it was always raining every single day. And, there's a lot of times when you go out training, then the dog gets muddy. My hot dogs are house dogs. You got to bring them in. You got to give them a bath, all that fun stuff. But yeah, I think we're finally made that turn towards some nice weather and taking full advantage of it.
Well, we're going to talk about your dogs here in a little bit because we have both some ups and some downs to share. And so I want to kind of dig into that a little bit. But first off, let's talk Retriever Roadmap.
Yeah.
So it's a few months old now. And what are your initial thoughts here as the program is developing, as you're starting to see more and more interaction, more and more feedback, people, maybe people like, maybe people don't like, what are you kind of feeling so far?
Yeah. It's been a blast. It's been, first of all, it was a lot of fun putting together. Coming up here, and obviously we went to several different locations to film things, even throughout the wintertime. Just a lot of fun to put together. And the content that's inside of it is so detailed. And that's probably one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get from people. It's very affordable, and the detail that's inside of it, how you explain things, your vision behind it. That's been one of the largest, feedbacks that we're getting from people. But, seeing the interaction, we have a forum-based community inside of the roadmap, and that's your chance to go inside and, share your experiences, tell your story, show us your progress. If you run into a roadblock, Josh and I are there to jump in there and answer your questions, or, give you some advice or give you a route to take to get through that roadblock. And it's pretty cool. A lot of the guys that have had some issues that jump in there, and, some people are just a little nervous to say, or maybe even embarrassed. I mean, don't be embarrassed. We're all in here for the same reason, but, we're here to help. We're here to help you achieve your training goals. And, it's been a lot of fun so far.
Mm-hmm. I love when you use the word roadblock. One, I think you and I have trained ourselves to use road navigation terms as we talk about the roadmap. And, I guess really quickly, it didn't hit me until you were talking about that. There might be some people listening that don't know what Retriever Roadmap is.
For
And
sure.
so Retriever Roadmap is a very detailed program that Brett and I had put together. And it'd been a vision of mine for years. I just had to have the right person behind the camera, which was Bret for sure, to put it all together. Because videoing, not only you having a program where it's step by step by step of how to take your dog from a puppy all the way through a finished dog, the amount of content, I mean, it was years of work to put together. So that part of it was hard to find commitment for. And then, Bret, I'll say this because you won't, you're too humble to, but videotaping dogs is a very difficult thing to do. And it was very difficult. Like, we had two different people that had come on, seemed to really want to do this thing, wanted to shoot the content behind it, but they were very frustrated with the dog piece of it, because you can't have, like, I think so many times when people are shooting content around dogs, it's like, all right, you're going to do something. Okay, now the person shooting has an idea of what it's going to look like. Okay, so do that again. And then do it again. And then do it again. And the hard part was, for those people, what I learned, I don't know what I don't know, right? So what I learned through it is that they weren't dog people. So it was hard for them to understand that you don't get a second shot at this. You don't get a third shot at this, right? Like, we're trying to show what this puppy does the first time that it sees a live bird, right? You can't reenact that first time. I mean, this is what it is. And then for me, it's my job to, based on what I'm reading, how do I react, and how do I make this a positive experience, and how do I get the most out of this? You can't fake that. And that was one of the things that made, I think, Retriever Roadmap so fun. Was it was so raw. It was so in the moment. It was, the dog is learning. So what am I going to do to combat what the dog throws at me? I mean, it was training. It was real training. And so you were just extremely talented at that. And so that's one of the things that made Retriever Roadmap go. But Retriever Roadmap it's a step-by-step video-based program that shows you how to train your own dog at home. And the whole roadmap piece behind it is that we're all going to have, if we're all trying to get from New York to Los Angeles, and we're all taking off driving, we're all going to take different routes. Some of you may take the interstate, some of you may take the dirt road, some of you may take the shortest distance, some of you guys might take shortest time, whatever it is. But the idea is find what route is best for you to enjoy the journey, and then take that path. And so the idea is we give you options. Okay, so do you want to use an e-collar? Do you not want to use an e-collar? Do you want to go through the train retrieve? Do you not? Do you want to do hold conditioning? Do you not? Do you and morphing into what a roadmap could be for each individual person. It's really neat because it allows you to see different routes, find what's best for you, try to take what you want, but then if it doesn't work, you can always backtrack and try a different route. And I've always said that's what I feel has made me successful as a trainer, is I didn't just learn from one person. I learned from 7 different guys that, I mean, it was probably really more than that, but 7 that I really identify with that really taught me a lot. And those 7 people had different approaches. They all, they all did on-lead obedience, but they all did it differently. They all did steadied marks, but they all did it differently. And so finding what was right for me was really important. But then also having those other ways in my back pocket that I could go to if my favorite way didn't work. That's the idea. And so the reason I say I love the word roadblock is because we have found that there have been a number of people that have got this program that's where they were. They're at a roadblock. They felt like their dog wasn't getting it, that maybe their dog wasn't capable, maybe they just didn't have the right tools, the right space, the right whatever it is. This program helped them get over it. And that's one of the things that I think has been extremely rewarding for me is hearing those stories, because you never know. I mean, I had a moment last week where I was just excited. I just had the smile on my face, and the big thing was that we were getting so much positive feedback through Retriever Roadmap, and I just didn't. You put all this time and all this work and all this effort in this, and you never know, like, is it going to be good? Is it not going to be good? Is it going to work out? Is it not going to work out? Is it really going to help people? And so that's been kind of a fun, fun piece of it for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, once people, find out about it, know about it, and see actually what's inside of it, the excitement that I've seen from, guys that are younger that maybe just got their first time puppy to guys that have trained multiple dogs that are like, man, this program is just great. This is what I've been looking for. I've learned so much. There's some drills in there that, I didn't know about, and it's helped me get to that next level with my dog. Or, hey, I just got a puppy and, I'm not for sure exactly how to start with them. And, that's what's great about the program. It starts from the puppy stage. You bring a puppy home from your breeder, day one, there starts with tips and drills and what you can do with your puppy. And then once your puppy starts to grow, then you get into your foundation work, and that's where, your sits and your heels, your place, your comes, simple marks, stuff like that. And then it gets into the intermediate side of things where, you got extended marks, a whole list of things. And then it gets into advanced where, you learn to handle your dog. And that's what everybody gets so, excited about and oohing and awing about is when you see a dog, like let's say for me instance with Josh, him running Brock, he can line Brock up and send Brock on a long blind and whistle set that dog and give him a right over or a back cast or angled cast or whatever, and that dog takes that. Well, yes, there's a lot of natural ability behind that, but Josh and Brock spent a lot of time together, and they followed this exact program that is at your fingertips. And, I'm not saying every dog's going to be like Brock, but, it gives you the map to get you to that end destination. And that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah, I wish more dogs could be like Brock because I would have a whole bunch of them if that was the case.
He's just easy to use for an example. But, you know, I could say Strike. I could say Bud. I could say Bracken. I could say Clyde. I've seen client dogs that are incredible dogs, too. So, you know, it's just Brock's Brock.
Yeah, there's just something about him, right?
Yep.
Okay, so through Retrieve Roadmap, I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit. So, what has been your biggest surprise as you've gone through this now? Like, is it, you know, is there a certain way, or like, is there something, you know, people have really loved? Is there, you know, something that has stood out to you that's like, oh, like I didn't expect that? Like, is there something so far that has been a surprise for you? Because one thing that we learned is that we didn't know what we didn't know, right? So like, as we go through the shooting process, you guys had no idea how many times I wanted to punch a hole through the closest tree because we just couldn't win. It was like one day we have super wind and it's picking up in the mic too much and we can't, you know, and then the next day is super nice, which means I swear every private pilot in the Midwest wanted to fly right over our property, and you know, it was just too much background noise. And then the next day the neighbor decided he was going to cut down trees, and like there were these moments it was like, oh my gosh. And so I just think it's kind of fun to know that, like, is there something that has stood out to you as a surprise?
There's all kinds of surprises, I guess. You know, there was a lot of challenges, and challenges that you don't think about, you know, from, you know, when I came up here this week, you know, we set an itinerary down. Hey, Monday, we're going to do this. Tuesday, we're going to do this. Wednesday, Thursday, I'm going to get back on the road Friday. And, you know, we wake up yesterday morning, we do our workout. You have a few chores you have to get done. I get back, you know, and all of a sudden the wind picks up. And we had all this videoing, you know, that we had planned. And now the wind's blowing 15, 20 mile an hour with higher gusts. And, you know, it was just like, oh, now what do we do? So, you know, finding locations to get out of the wind. Then, you know, it's bright sun. So the longer the day goes on, you know, then we start, you know, then you start looking at shadows and other kinds of things that maybe some people don't look about. But, you know, I'm a perfectionist, and, you know, I try to put out the best, you know, obviously quality that's possible. So, you know, that's always a surprise.
What about as it sits today? Like so the program's live, you're doing a bunch of interaction with people, you're hearing a bunch of feedback. And I have two of them. I can give you mine if you want. But I would really like to know, just because I think there's always, you know, a surprise. There's something that, oh, I didn't think that, or I didn't think we would see this, or we didn't think.
Right. You kind of caught me off guard here.
I intentionally do that. I never like to plan out what these podcasts are going to be, because then it just seems too scripted.
Right.
So let me tell you what mine are. I have two of them. One, I'm surprised how many women we have.
For sure.
Yeah,
100%.
And I think it's fantastic, and I think it's awesome, and I do think we're going to be incorporating Whitney way more as we move forward, because I mean, I just think that's such a neat thing, and I think, you know, that she should be involved anyway, because she's a big part of this. But then two, you know, just showing that aspect of and that side of it, I think is really neat, and I love that more women are getting involved, because quite frankly, women are oftentimes way better at following direction and following instruction and not letting their egos get in the way. And it's really, so that's been really fun for me. The second thing for me is, quite honestly, I know this is going to sound weird, so you're going to have to like let me explain it for a second. I am surprised how many people we have had great feedback on from the train retrieve process already.
I was going to interrupt you.
Because that's one. So you and I debated a lot on do we include this or not.
Yes, a lot.
And I think that I was always erring a little more towards, I don't know if we should. You always erred more towards, I think we should.
Right.
Or me shouldn't. you should, right? And the reason I would always err towards maybe we shouldn't include it is because I was just nervous that we were handing people a loaded gun, that if they didn't go slow, if they didn't take their time, if they didn't understand the significance, if they didn't appreciate the process, if they didn't, go too slow, not just slow, too slow, that they screwed up.
Yep.
And I am just absolutely blown away with the stories and the videos, and how many people have we had that said, I was using a different program, or I was following a different process, and they didn't have train retrieve, they didn't have force fetch, which I get why nobody would show force fetch, because it can be very brutal.
For sure.
But they didn't have this, so they were stuck. And that's a real thing. It's like, how can you say, well, we don't do train retrieve, or we don't work with the dog's mouth. The dog should be natural. Well, what if it's not, right? Or what if there's a bad habit that got picked up? What if the kids love the dog so much that they go out and they just throw the tennis ball, right? Like, you're going to tell that person that there's nothing they can do to fix it? You're going to tell that person, well, I guess you're just going to have to deal with it? Like, that's not right, right? Yep. And that was your side of it, right? Like, you got to give this to people because it's going to help so many people. And I've continued to be skeptical about it because I just get nervous, with it, because it is such a delicate process and it is such a time-consuming process. But I am so happy to hear how many people have done so well with that.
Yeah, it's funny because when we first started building the website, we set out the courses. So we had, the puppy course, we had the foundation course, the advanced course, the intermediate course, and then we had a couple other courses that were question marks, train retrieve being one of them. And, even before, when we decided, yes, let's do this, the amount of questions that came in to the program, or, into the community or via email, that, hey, my dog's dropping short, or, hey, my dog's picking a bumper up and tossing it in the air and, just wants to play with the bumper. And, or, hey, my dog, just doesn't, gets out there and just not for sure what to do. And that, to tell them, even though we knew it was coming, to tell them, just be patient. We're working on this, because it was a long process. And once it's out there, the feedback of, oh my gosh, obviously some people aren't through it yet, but some people that have worked through it, like, oh my gosh, this has resolved a lot of my problems. Or, hey, my dog went through, a different program, but I'm still seeing this issue. And now, they've been through it, and now the dog's clean as can be. And just seeing that, I mean, that's rewarding in itself.
For sure. It's funny because the reason that has been such a big deal as far as that portion of our training is, Dave, who works for me at the kennel, we talk about this all the time. It's like, we have people that, because of the old school force fetch mentality and what they think of that, it's like, we've had people in the past that have been hesitant. They're like, oh, like, are you gonna be pinching his ear? Are you gonna be pulling his toe? Or are you gonna be, like, applying crazy pressure? And we had one guy at one time. It was just funny because Dave's a very quiet guy, right? Like, he's not the guy to kind of crack a joke. He's not the guy that's going to, be very boisterous, or like, really stick his nose into a conversation at all. And this guy was talking to us, and this guy, had owned retrievers and was kind of asking questions. And he goes, so why do you guys think that's, because we were like, the dog has to go through this, right? Like, and his in particular dog, he had a chocolate lab, that the dog, he would drop 10 feet short every time. Yeah, just like not even close. And he'd finish the retrieve, happy boy, but he just didn't understand, that part of the job. And he's like, do you really think we have to do it? And we're like, yes, we really do, And he goes, well, why do you guys think this is so important? Because, like, I don't care if he drops, in front of me. Like I can go pick up the bird, whatever. And and Dave kind of like pokes in with like a very big smile on his face, and he goes, because we don't want to send the dog home as a retriever, and people ask, oh, how'd the training go? And you say, well, he doesn't retrieve very well. He does everything else just fine. It's like, why do you send him to retriever training? And so it was kind of a funny moment, but that has always stuck in my head as far as like, it's true. Like when you go through a program and you want a retriever, like it's a big part of it. Like that dog has to finish it, because think of everything else that goes into. So finishing the retrieve, I firmly believe finishing the retrieve makes your dog steadier.
100%.
Because they understand the job.
Yep.
Right? They understand starting line, finish line. That dog will never, under control, go pick up multiple marks because he didn't finish the first one.
Right.
Right? And so if you come and line him up and try to send him another one, he could go pick that one back up. He could go all over the place, right? The control's not there. You're never going to line him up for a blind, right? Because he's not understanding the full concept of what he's out there to do. Like maybe, okay, I take that back. You might be able to line him up on a blind, but he's never going to complete the job, right? He might get there, you might be able to handle him there, but it's just different, right? So it's a big part of this whole thing, and I'm so proud of these people, really, because it does take discipline. It does take commitment. It does take follow through. It does take work, but so does everything else in life that's worth having.
Absolutely.
Yep. So
Yep.
it's that's been one of my biggest things. So I don't know if there are any other surprises that you'd thought about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have a surprise. What's not surprising to me are the results and the feedback that we're getting. Mm-hmm. Just because, and I'm just telling you straight up how it is. The amount of detail and the amount of work that went into this is incredible. So it's not surprising to me that the results and the feedback and everything that we're hearing from people going, oh man, this thing's, it's great. It's everything that I've wanted. I mean, this is what you use at the kennel. I mean, this is what you've used on your own dogs. So, and you've made it available to the public, and that's huge. So that's a big thing.
So you don't have a surprise. Do you have? Well, I guess that you're not being surprised is kind of it's not a surprise. It's a play off the surprise.
Sure.
What is, of the whole program, what is your favorite part?
Going at your own pace. This isn't a cookie cutter program. Every dog's different, and one dog may go through something fairly fast. The next dog may take a little longer. So setting your dog up to succeed is obviously the most important thing. And if you only get halfway through that and you feel like you have to rush on to something else and you haven't completed that task, that's only going to make things more difficult as you move forward. And that's what's great about this. There's no set plan. There is a set plan, but I'm saying no, hey, this has to be done in this time frame. Mm-hmm. It's go at your own pace. We're all about making you and your dog successful. We want you to set goals, and we want you to achieve those goals. Mm-hmm. So that's that's probably the coolest thing I like about the program.
Yeah, for sure. My favorite part, which is funny because it's usually not my favorite part, is my favorite part is the puppy, the puppy portion. So the reason I say that it's usually not my favorite part is because I'm just not like a big puppy guy. Like Whitney obviously is. Like Whitney's life revolves around. She adores the puppies, and who doesn't love a Labrador puppy? Of course, I love playing with them. I love hanging out with them. I really enjoy doing chores with them because they like have this life about them that's infectious. It's like, oh my gosh, like how can you have a bad day when you're around this bundle of cuteness that just wants to be with you and is so eager. But the puppy, like, to me, the whole puppy process, like the the potty training and the socialization and all that kind of stuff. That's just not my favorite. I prefer the big dog stuff. I always have. And but the reason I say that the puppy section of Retriever Roadmap is my favorite section is because what I have found and what I've listened to now as people, go through this and they continue to be successful with it, is that has been the foundation and the launching pad of the confidence that the owner has in how to go be successful, right? Like if we did a poor job with the puppy and we just jumped into obedience or bird and gun or just foundation in general, right? It's like people could be feeling like they're drinking from a fire hose, right? It's like, okay, we went from having this little ball of fur to now all of a sudden it's like boom into foundation, and there's so much going on, and like there's a lot of training that goes on before that. Crate training, foundation, or I'm sorry, not foundation, socialization. I mean, everything that we talk about with tree training and introducing these commands and teaching them what these commands are. Basically, you're teaching them a language, There's so much there that it's really kind of been fun for me to listen to how people have gotten off on the right foot, which when you get off on the right foot, it gives you confidence. When you're confident, you're more apt to go forward and push. I mean, you might have had a goal of, I just want a dog to be obedient. Well, you got off on the right foot. Now you've had so much fun with it. Well, now all of a sudden I want to go, do double, triple marks. Now maybe I even want my dog to be able to run a blind retrieve. Oh my gosh, like I never would have thought. And so that's been really fun, for me. That's kind of what been my favorite part.
Yeah. No, puppy. I was going to say this morning when you went and got a puppy out of the nursery there, you're like, oh, aren't you so cute? So when you said, puppies usually aren't your thing, I was like, come on, Josh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and they are my thing for sure. I mean, it's our business.
For sure.
But it's just like when if I had to choose, puppies or the big dogs, like I just love the big dogs. I'd say I'm like that too with kids. Like if I were to coach a T-ball team versus the varsity high school team, I'm more the varsity high school guy. Like I admire the T-ball coach, right? I admire Whitney that is so good with the puppies. And I enjoy that. Like I can't wait until Colt's old enough and I can, go coach T-ball with him. Right. But it's just, naturally, I think you gravitate, towards one of those two, and that's why like normally I'd go, well, that's easy advanced. Like the advanced program is my favorite part because that's my favorite part to do, but this has been so interesting to hear that feedback as you go through things.
Yeah. I was just going to add a couple things into that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know that we've heard a little bit is, and just a piece of advice, especially in the puppy stage, since we're talking about puppies, is let your puppy be a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
We've had, some guys that have asked questions that, just generally don't know, but, they have these big goals and, they want to see that dog progress as fast as possible. And, they're trying to, I don't want to say overwork the puppy, but, they're just not letting that puppy be a puppy as much as they should. So just a little piece of advice. If you're a first time trainer and you get a dog, you got tons of time. It's not going to happen overnight. It is a process and you have to enjoy the process. And,
for sure.
That starts with the puppy and, just realize that those sessions are going to be shorter and realize that, as you say, they're preschoolers. So their attention span is not, as strong, and they want to go play around and chase the butterflies and eat the dandelions and everything else. So.
Right. Well, and that's a great note to have as we're going into what we'd call quote unquote puppy season, right? It's just like this springtime, you oftentimes see a lot of puppies, going home, a lot of, people getting puppies, this time of year, which is a great time of year to do it because oftentimes for most of the country, this is when you're going to be out doing stuff. You're going to be going to the T-ball game. You're going to be going to, picnics and cookouts and going to the cabin, and you're going to be more actively outside than at least here in the winter. Like we all turn into a bunch of hermits,
right.
You don't want to be outside. You don't want to be doing stuff. And so naturally you're just more apt to be bringing the dog with you and be doing more with the dog. And so that's a great piece of advice, even just going into this season, the seasonality part of it. Take your time.
Yeah.
Don't rush it.
Yeah. The second thing I was going to add is this isn't just for puppies. Retriever
For sure.
Roadmap, if you have a 2-year-old dog, you have a 5-year-old dog, you can jump in at any point in the program.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel your dog is at a certain point, you can jump right in there and go. If you have your dog to where you just need to learn how to handle them, it just goes straight to the advanced part. If you run into issues, you have everything else to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's times that I go back to obedience, just naturally. There's things that you see dogs, a dog do, and there's times I go back and work on obedience.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe there's something in there that you weren't for sure or didn't know what to do, so it's just not from, hey, I just bought a puppy, so I need this program. If you have an older dog, it's just as much for you.
Hmm.
So
that has been, going back to surprises, that has been another surprise of mine. How many people have had 3, 4, 5-year-old dogs and have gotten the program? And quite frankly, maybe even more of a surprise is how those people have taken those older dogs and been so successful with them, right? Because like the whole you can't teach an old dog new tricks thing, I mean, it goes out the window pretty quick when all that this is giving you some different methods that might click with your dog better.
For sure.
And it's just really fun to see them get over the hump.
Yep.
Okay, so let's kind of give away here what our surprise is for everybody. So
I'm ready.
Well, you know what it is because you created the code. So what we're going to do is for all of our DUK Dogs listeners, we are going to knock $100 off the purchase price of Retrieve Roadmap. So it's a $199 initiation fee. We're going to drop that, knock $100 off. So it'll be $99. So $99. I mean, you can have this, and it's $29 a month. If you want the Plus membership, it's $49 a month, but there's a lot of benefits off that Plus membership. I mean, shoot, the discounts alone that you get from all of our partners are worth way more,
sure.
way more than that.
Yeah.
Plus all the additionals, but, I mean, shoot, you could have this thing for, I think we figured 1.5 years for what a dog could go to a professional trainer for a week.
Yep.
1.5 years.
That's all
for a week.
Yep. Super affordable.
Yeah. So we've broken this down, and we just wanted to give something kind of back to you guys. So the code is DUK Dogs. So DUK DOGS. DUK Dogs DUK DOGS. Use that at the checkout. It'll knock off your $100 for you, and keep us posted and let us know when you join, because we want to stay in contact with you. We want to see how it's going. We want to watch the progress. Just kind of one of our little ways to give back. So when does that expire? I think it's June 1st, right?
June 1st, yes.
June 1st. Yeah. So you have 2 weeks from today.
Yep.
2 weeks from today. So June 1st, make sure you have that purchased by June 1st. Otherwise that code will expire, not be any good. But go out there and get that done. And then you have the whole season. You have the whole summer now. Whole summer. If you're, if you've trained dogs before, if you're using a different program, if you're like, we've made this, I think, so affordable that I just don't think doesn't make sense not to have it. I mean, it just gives you more access. And again, continue to build on it. That's what you're doing here this week.
Yep.
Continuing to build. We have new dogs in, new personalities, new hurdles. Let's use some of these different routes. Let's create some more avenues for people. So
and
really cool stuff.
If you like podcasts, on the Plus membership, we have a private exclusive podcast for the Plus members, and we release a new podcast every 2 weeks and different topics. A lot, sometimes, we talk about questions that have come into us, go into more detail from the community, with things that, that people are asking or, looking for. So if you're in the podcast, it's a fun podcast to listen to.
And I've really gotten into that one because what's neat about it is that we've gotten to know some of our members now, just through the activity and the questions and the back and forth. And so when they ask a specific question, and this is always going to come up, right? Like no matter how much content we have, there's going to be a unique situation that always comes up, right? So unique situation comes up. hey, okay, so here's one that came up last week, is this person had gone through a force fetch already before getting retriever roadmap. This person had gone through force fetch. The dog understood what they were supposed to be doing, he thought. The only thing, he could not get the dog to hold coming out of the water, right? And so I won't give it all away here, but between he and I, we came up with a catered drill that we made up for him to transfer it over. He did it for 3 days. That dog hasn't dropped out of the water since.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like that. And we dig into that. And so it's just really fun. And it's, it allows us to dig deeper into some of the questions, because, I mean, we get questions all day long on Instagram, on Facebook, now, through Retriever Roadmap, emails, but Retriever Roadmap community. What I love about the community is that other people have been jumping in, answering questions too, and I love that. But you can only give so much detail over a message,
right?
And sometimes it's up for interpretation on both ends. Sometimes we don't interpret it how you're meaning it. Sometimes you don't interpret our answers the way that we're meaning it. Translations get lost. It's frustrating.
Yep.
And so being able to sit down and really dig in with that podcast, what is neat is how often we've talked about someone's specific request or a specific question, and we'll get 2 or 3 other messages being like, "Oh my gosh, that helped me so much." It was like, well, you didn't even ask the question, but more people out there, needed it. So
right.
it's been a really neat deal.
Yeah. One last thing that I just want to include is the friendships that I made. People that I've never met, and we text, we message back and forth. The friendships that I've made that I probably would have never made, without this program. So
that's pretty cool.
That's what I mean. I guess that's another surprise, I should say.
There you go. You did have a surprise,
but I just didn't think about it. Just going through this whole thing and just interacting with these people and helping. We all have the same common interests. We're all doing the same thing. We all have the end goals, and just talking on a regular basis now. Just that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, really cool. Okay, so done talking Retriever Roadmap for a little bit. So I want to dig into, you have 2 dogs at home. You have more than 2 dogs. First off, tell us about your dogs quickly, and then I want to queue up each of the 2 dogs I want to talk about.
For sure, yeah. So we have 4 dogs at home. We have a 11-year-old black male. We have a 6-year-old yellow female. We have a 3-year-old yellow female, and we have a 4-year-old yellow male. So Storm is the oldest. He was a dog that I got from a breeder down at home, and great dog. Just got to the age where I was looking for another dog, and then there was another breeding through a friend of mine that came up that we got River. She's a 6-year-old, and then I met Josh at SHOT Show, and we started talking, and I was looking at another dog, and that's where we ended up with Timber, and then now we have Deuce, Mr. 4-year-old.
Okay, so excuse me, I just blew everybody's ears out. So would you like to? So we have one dog that is a big upper
Yep.
story, and we have one dog that's a big downer story. Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with Timber, because everybody kind of knows Timber's story.
Okay. So if you guys have been listening to this podcast for any amount of time, you know about Timber. Timber had what I think was an incredible road between Bret and her and the work they put in together, and this crazy unfortunate situation that set them back, that they went together, they overcame it, they got back on track, they're excelling again. And this last week, and actually a lot of people have actually specifically asked for a Timber puppy. Yeah, I think a lot because of that story, but then they see her and she's gorgeous, and if you watch any videos about her, she's got this great personality, she's got the big drive, she's got everything, right? But kind of a rough week for Timber last week.
Yeah. Yep. We so I brought Timber up here when we finished train retrieve, which was February, I believe.
Probably a month or two ago.
Yeah. So, and we had the intentions of breeding her. So brought her up. She was in her heat cycle, and just to backtrack just a little bit, Timber's been, like Josh said, she's been an incredible dog. We went through Retriever Roadmap together. She's the first dog that I truly put through it. So, we ran into a couple of roadblocks, but her and I, just like any dog, her and I are tight. And so then, through the whole thing, we signed a breeding contract with Josh and Whitney when I first got her. And she was a May puppy. So just with hunting season and everything that she went through, she just turned 3 in May here, in the beginning of May. And, I didn't want to miss out on hunting season, especially I had already missed 2 seasons. So if I would have bred her, the last time, I probably would have missed another hunting season. So we decided to wait to breed her this past end of the winter here, beginning of spring. And so I brought her up, and they chose Clyde, and
which would have been a badass breeding.
Which would have been a badass breeding, yes. And they had a successful breeding, so to speak, at least, so we bring her home. Everything's going great. I think she's starting to show signs. I had initial plans to come back up here actually Thursday this week I think it's the 18th. We were supposed to do a puppy count x-ray. And last Monday, I was feeding Timber 2 times a day, fed her in the morning, and I went down to work, and I came back up, and she's sitting next to her food bowl, and she's still got most of her food in there. She's got this concerned look on her face, and she's got her tail tucked. And I'm like, what is wrong, girl? And she gets up, and she leaves this big pile of discharge on my carpet. I'm like, whoa, what's that? And she takes off running from the back door, frightened. And as she turns the corner to go to the back door, another thing of discharge comes out. And it's kind of mucousy, bloody, et cetera, et cetera. And so obviously very concerned because of this discharge. I called Whitney, and through some conversations with Whitney's vet, I ended up taking her to my local vet to have an ultrasound done. And I guess not thinking, just thinking that maybe she, whatever, I don't know what I was thinking. Concerned, but not 100% concerned. And ultrasound, and there's 0 puppies, and she has a terrible infection of her uterus. And pretty much my vet said probably be best just to go ahead and have her spayed. And I was like, man, we wanted to have puppies, right? But her life is more than just the puppies. So he gave us some antibiotics and sent us home. And what she had was, I think it's called pyometra, and basically it's an infection of her uterus. And what happened was, it's deadly. And thankfully her cervix was open, and she was draining this infection, and that was the discharge that I had seen. If she would have not drained or, released some of that infection, she could have died in 24 hours. So went home, discussed with Whitney. Whitney was 100%, behind getting her spayed. Her health is more important than anything. My wife and I talked about it, and it really wasn't a hard decision. Obviously I'd love to see her puppies. I would have loved to seen what her puppies could have done. But, like I said, her life was, is more valuable than to us. So we, and I called Dr. Spoo, who is a friend of ours, a vet that works with Eukanuba, and he told me right away, he's like, man, he goes, if it's my dog, you need to get it done. So I took her back that Tuesday, and Timber was spayed. So she's recovering well, full of P&V, just like she's always been, just tucking her butt, wanting to go. She gets mad at me when I take Deuce to go train, and she doesn't. This week she's, after that, you're supposed to let them, chill for 14 days. Easier said than done with a dog that just loves to train, especially she knows when I leave with other dogs, that she's not going, that she doesn't like that. And, super bummed. But like I said, in the end, it's best for her. It's best for her health. And, I got a lot of hunting seasons to look forward to with her. So it's a bummer.
Yeah. Bummer for sure. Yeah. So essentially most of this happened in a 24-hour span, right?
Yep.
Because I know that I had a crazy day what was I doing that day? Was I training?
You were turkey hunting
in Wyoming. I didn't have service.
Correct.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So
Correct.
I was turkey hunting in Wyoming, no service, and I had one spot that if I got up on this mountain range, and if I got up in this area, I would get service, and so it was just naturally where I was hunting, and so I would try to get over there once in a while. Usually once a day, I'd get there, let Whitney know I was still alive, and send some messages, and then get back on my way. And one day it was everything is great, and the next day it was Timber had to get spayed, and I'm like, what? I thought we were having puppies. I thought dude, I was stoked for Timber Clyde.
Yeah, me too.
Stoked for that. I was thinking, these little powerhouses, fire with fire. These are going to be, just complete powerhouse, puppies. I was super excited about it, but like you'd said, at the end of the day, what's funny is that, when it's your business, there's, sometimes there's, some assumptions that are made, right? So there was one individual that really wanted specifically a timber puppy, and actually specifically because of your story, right? And, he because he had literally waited probably almost an extra year just for a timber litter, and so we had to tell him what happened. He's like, so disappointing, that sucks, oh my gosh, kind of hoo-ha, and then he's like, man, was that a hard decision, on a business end? And obviously I wasn't even there to make the decision, but I'm like, dude, in a situation like that, I don't give a shit about the money,
right.
This is about her, right?
Yep.
And that's what I feel like at Riverstone, what we have always done is everything is about the quality of puppies, whether it's the genetics that go into it, whether it's the process that we take to get there, whether it's the health testing, whether it's the hunt testing, whether it's the extreme vetting that I go through for the males. Everything's about how do we develop the best puppies that we can. But when we get to that, we have a tremendous amount of pride for those dogs, right? And so we want them to live the best, happiest lives that they can going forward. That's why there are times that we say, no, thank you. We don't want you to get one of our puppies, right? If I don't feel like you're a good person, if I don't feel like you're a right fit for us, I'm just going to say no.
Right.
And this is why, if someone's looking at timber as a tool, you go, well, let's see how it goes. Let's see if it runs a course. Maybe she cleans, maybe she gets over it. We'll try breeding her again.
Yep.
That's not right here.
Right.
Right. Get this done, get her back to healthy, and let her go live a quality life going forward. Right. Yeah, it sucks.
Yep.
You're bummed out about it. I'm bummed out about it. Whitney's bummed out. We have a number of people that want to timber houses that bummed out. But at the end of the day, timber's happy and healthy.
Yep.
That's the most important part.
100%. 100%. Yeah. She's as much as a part of our family. I'm getting Snapchats from my wife, the Timber sitting on her lap, and, Timber just, she's one of our kids. So yeah, for when you hear that it sucks, right? The whole thing sucks. But when you hear that it's life threatening, there's no second guessing. You do what's best for them, and you move forward. So, it's just, I've been surprised. I've had multiple people reach out to me, as well, saying, hey, I'm sorry to hear that Timber's litter didn't take, and they didn't know the full story. Whitney just put on the website, which I didn't know at first either. I'm like, where are these people hearing that Timber didn't take? Whitney had put on the website her upcoming litters with Clyde and Timber, and then she just put, litter didn't take. So I had multiple people reach out to me, just like, hey man, so sorry to hear, that Timber didn't take, and but I didn't tell them the full story. This is the first time I, besides close friends, I've told that story. So,
well, and I think the reason that we haven't, just kind of put this kind of thing out there, here we can talk about it,
Sure.
right? Like if somebody were to just read something like that on the website, there are a lot of things that uneducated people are going to make assumptions about, or make like, maybe whether it's like, it wasn't that you weren't taking care of her.
Right.
It wasn't anything genetic.
Right.
It wasn't anything, right? It was just a complete fluke.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks.
Yep.
It's just, and so that's where, that's where it's so tough, because, and this is where I'm very proud of how we run our business. Yes, this is a business. Yes, this is how I feed my family, but no, that doesn't mean that the dollar trumps everything else,
right?
Which is a big deal. And Timber, like, she, we feel like she's as much our family as she is your family, because
Right.
she's she comes up, well, right now she's recovering, but she comes up almost every time with you. Every time you come up,
Yep.
she's out training. She's down at duck camp. She's around, and man, it's just the good news is that she'll have more green heads in her mouth this winter.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I get home, looking forward to when I get back, because she's past that that time, recovery time, and I know she's chomping at the bit to get back to training, and we're going to get back at it and get ready for this upcoming season.
Yeah, that's like having a secretariat on stall rest. It's like she's not having no fun sitting in the house every day.
Not at all.
Okay, so that was her downer,
Which
sucks, but we loved her. We love that she's here. So that was a downer. Now let's go with our upper. Okay, so your other dog. So do you mind if I kind of cue this one up?
100%.
Okay, so because this is such a unique situation, and it is so unique, one, how the situation came up, two, that you stepped up into this situation and took on what you took on, and then three, where you are today. Okay, and I think the reason we haven't talked much about this is, one, I haven't had you on for quite a while now.
Right.
But then, two, like, I didn't know how this whole thing was going to turn out. And so, okay, so here's the story is, I had a puppy that is from us go to a family out on the East Coast, and was a duck dog. And man, like, I would get photos all the time, from these people. I didn't know them, personally. But they were clients of ours. They seemed like very nice people. They had this puppy, and man, like, they would send us photos all the time. So I was super jealous of them, because they shoot a ton of black ducks and brand, which are like two things that are like, they get me going. And so all the time I get photos of this dog's name is Deuce. Deuce with a big black duck in his mouth, or a big branch, or like all this stuff, right? And like this dog was great. And then this very strange, like, chain of events goes on. Okay, so I get a phone call from the guy that he's out of town, and he's like, man, like, Deuce snipped at my wife. And I was like, like, that seems really strange, right? He's like, yeah, it's really strange, but when I'm gone, it kind of makes me nervous. I'm like, all right, well, so he goes home, and it seems to get worse. Like, over a course of what initially seemed like 5 days, like, went from this perfect dog to now all of a sudden he's wanting to eat somebody.
Yep.
Then, then it kind of comes up where it's like, okay, we have to do something with the dog, right? So we're either going to put him down, or we have to, rehome him somewhere. And I'm like, whoa, like, we went from like this great dog to this really fast, so like, what in the world is going on? And then things changed a little bit, at least from my perspective. And again, from everything I know, these people have been, great people. But then it was like, well, there was this a while back, and then, he had got attacked by a dog, and I think there was like someone that like, I can't remember what it was, like hit him with a stick or something like they were like all like stuff just started not adding up right to me, and I'm just going like, what in the world? Like this is just so off. And he's a Brock puppy, and Brock puppies tend to be like roll on your back submissive, not the other way around. And so I'm like, all right, what the heck? So I'm trying to figure this thing out. And basically it was like, he's getting put down tomorrow. And for me, like everything's racing through my head of like, I need to figure something out, because one, like I don't know, like I don't know if I can take him, because a couple factors. First and foremost is my family, as I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And if there's something like this going on and they are right at eye level, like I just can't, right? 2 is, now, okay, so I'm a professional, so I bring this dog back. If I were to then rehome him to someone I don't know, like, okay, what if he bites somebody else? Now that's on me, right? Like this dog is almost 4, right? This dog's almost 4. So I have no idea what happened in the first 4 years of his life, and now I'm taking him. So there's the liability factor there. So, man, like I really struggle with it, because like I'm just like, there's no way this is a bad dog, because for the last 3.5 years I've heard about nothing about how awesome this dog is, right? So like, what the heck happened? So anyway, Bret and I, as we seem to do a lot through, because Retriever Roadmap was not yet launched. This was the week before, I think.
Yeah, because I drove out and picked him up on Monday. We launched Tuesday.
Yeah, because we were freaking out, going like,
right,
we can't be losing this time, because
right.
we have all this stuff going on. But like, it was either he's getting put down or he's going somewhere, right? So like, you had to. So anyway, he was crazy. So Bret and I were talking all the time at midnight, right? Because we're like, there's so much work that goes into this thing. We're trying to get the thing ready for launch. We're like, bah, 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 bah. And then all of a sudden this comes up, and like, we're literally just talking about this.
Right.
And I think you could just tell that I was all over the place. I'm just like, man, like, I'm stressed out because of this dog, and this is what happened. And I don't like this, all it's just not lining up for, with me, of why this is, like, something's not making sense. I don't know, and I don't want this dog to be put down, because I know he's got to be a great dog, blah, 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 blah. And I think it was like, I think I had to hang up, because maybe like the kids or like one of the kids woke up or something like that, and I called you back. And the first thing you said is, hey, I think I found somebody for Deuce. And I was like, I remember being so relieved, like, oh my gosh, really? Because whoever he goes with has to know what we're being told, right? And I was like, really? And the next words out of your mouth were, yeah, me. And I was like, first off, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, so you already have 3 dogs at home. Now you're going to take a 4th. And like, when we talked a lot about the situation, right? And the situation is that we don't know the situation.
Right.
We don't know the dog. We don't know the severity of what we're talking about. We don't know what was or wasn't done, because as we've talked about before, these dogs are a product of their environment, right? So you can take a extremely nice little puppy, and if you put them in a lot of very terrible situations, you're going to create something that puppy really wasn't meant to be, right? And so we have no idea, like, was he socialized? Was he not? Was he beaten? Was he not? Was he abused in any way? Was he not? And I'm not saying that happened,
right? But
we don't know that.
Sure.
And so there was so much risk, and then that's why I kept being like, are you sure? Are you sure about this? Are you sure about this? Anyway, you decide to take him.
Yep. Yeah, that was my wife's idea. We were actually, and that's true. We were, you had called me. I don't recall. I think it might have been like late Saturday night, and you brought it up to me. And then Sunday,
it was the next day.
It was the next day. Yeah. And so Sunday, my wife and I, we go to a local restaurant, Mexican restaurant, drinking some margaritas, and
which is where all good ideas come from.
Right. Exactly. And I hadn't mentioned anything to her about this, just because I was like, I can't take her, or take him. I've got Timber, that I'm working on, and we got 2 other dogs, and I've got 4 kids, and I only got so much bedroom and couch space in my house, and it was just like, I really at first was not thinking of me. I did in the back of my head, but not, it wasn't a reality. It was just I would if I could, but I just don't think the situation's right. And yeah, my wife and I are sitting down enjoying some chips and salsa and a margarita, and I think you had texted me something about him, and I brought it up to my wife.
I think it was, is there any chance know anyone
right.
that would be a good fit?
Yeah. And I did have one friend that I duck hunt with that has been talking about getting a dog, but same situation like you, and same situation that the previous owners were in. They young kids, and obviously, not knowing exactly what the triggers are and what's causing, and the uncertainty behind it. I obviously was not going to recommend my buddy with the little kids, to bring this dog home. And so just over dinner, I said to my wife, I said, anybody that wants a 3.5-year-old yellow lab male? It's a Brock puppy. And my wife looks up at me. Now, granted, this is only one margarita in, so I know it wasn't a margarita decision, but she looks up at me and she's like, well, how about us? And I looked at her like, what? Because she's the last one, is like, she loves dogs, and I think sometimes she plays that role of, we're not getting any more dogs because of the dog hair, or because, our dogs sometimes sleep in bed with us. So, her back hurts the next morning because the dogs, want to snuggle and cuddle and, be bed hogs. And so I looked at her, I was like, what? She's like, yeah, let's take him. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, 100%. I said, okay. She goes, well, find out, get their number, give them a call. Let's find out a little bit more about him, and we'll go get him. And like Josh had mentioned, this has to happen right now, or this dog is not going to see tomorrow. And so I'd called Josh, and then that's when I said, hey, I found an owner for the dog, and me. And so Josh gave me, the guy's number, and I called them and talked to him and his wife, and they're totally heartbroken. They're totally heartbroken over the situation. Obviously, 3-year-old dog, they've had since a puppy, just a hard situation to make that decision. But, I understand what their circumstances were. And, so we made arrangements for that Monday, and we're launching Retriever Roadmap on Tuesday. So,
and this is Sunday.
This is a Sunday, right? Yeah. So I made plans for Monday morning to drive. This guy lives in Long Island. I live in Ohio. He's like 13 and a half hours away from me. So we made plans, talked to him, figured everything out. We made plans to meet in Pennsylvania. He'd drive a little farther just because of my time frame with this program and everything else. We met on the side in a little town, made he brought his dad with him, and got Deuce out. Deuce comes running over, big dog, muscular dog, and jumps up, wants petted, and I'm just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this dog. And, he's visibly upset, wants to make this quick, shake hands. He gets everything out that they have for him. And I open up, we had taken my wife's van, open up the back. I got a kennel in there. Deuce kennel jumps right up to go in there. No problem. And he's like, hey, can I have his leash and his collar? I'm like, sure. So I reached in, to his kennel to get his leash and his collar off of him. And I got growled at. I'm like, whoa, this isn't a good start. So, because, in reality, in my back of my head, I'm thinking, let's just put this dog in a whole different situation, take him away. And I'm not saying anything. I'm not assuming anything, but let's just put this dog in a entirely different situation. And, maybe that's what he needs. And, that happened. And I'm like, oh boy. So I'd let 3 of my kids skip school because they were all, don't tell their principal, but they were all excited about this new dog. So I let the three that are in school skip school, and we all, they went with us, and one of them sitting in the back with the dog, and I just told him, I was like, don't stick your hands in the in the kennel, whatever, just leave him be. This is all new to him. I mean, he's been used to everything, and now he's been put into a stranger's vehicle. Probably a kennel he hasn't spent a lot of time in, and new faces, and obviously he's had something that's triggered him, and we're not for sure what it is. So just be chill about it.
Yeah, his life has just really changed,
flipped
really
upside
fast.
down.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. Yep. So, long story short, we drive the 5 hours back home, and open up the garage door, and I open up the back hatch of the wife's van, reach in to let this dog out, and he just comes unglued. Like, I'm like, holy cow.
Gonna eat your face.
He's going to eat me. I mean, he was just like, he was growling, and I took a video. I sent to Josh. It's like, Josh, I can't get this dog out of this kennel. And my wife comes in from taking the kids inside, whatever. She comes back into the garage because I had pulled the van in. I shut the door. I just, new situation. Last thing I want to do is let this dog out, and he takes off running down the block, and he doesn't come back. So
let me jump in and tell this part. This is my favorite part of the story. So let me tell this part of it. So you're right, because that is a big deal, and we do that. I learned my lesson with Strike. If you guys have not heard the Strike story, you got to go back. It's like one of the first, maybe like the first 3-4 episodes. The Strike story is just crazy, but I learned my lesson. New dog, new people, new situation. You never know. Pull him into the garage, close all the doors before you let him out of the truck, no matter how much you trust him. And so Bret did that, and so Bret calls me in the middle of what he was just talking about, right? So he's going to get Deuce out of the kennel. I'm
freaking.
And all I hear is, Josh, I don't know what to do. Like he's gonna eat me. and so he goes, I hear Kim come back in the garage, and I'm like, all right, guys, like you just gotta open that door. And you kept saying that I can't open the door, right? And like I'm thinking like you can't physically open the door. I'm like, Bret, like you can undo the latch, man. Like, are you that scared? Like he's not gonna bite through the door. And what you were saying is, no, I can't do it because I'm afraid of what might happen next.
Yep.
And so Kim, Bret's wife, is holding the phone. Bret is like trying to work up the courage to open this door up, and all of a sudden I hear Kim go, "Oh, come on, you baby, just open the door."
Oh yeah, she was giving me crap, and I'm like, every time I reached for that door, he was growling and showing his teeth, and in a van, I'm right at his level. So the thing that's going through my mind, as soon as that door comes unlatched, he's going to push through that, and he's going to tackle me, and he's just going to friggin' eat me for dinner. And that's what's going through my head.
Yeah.
So,
well, and so let me jump back for a hair, because I think this is a big part of this. So one thing that ended up not being the right thought, at least to what we know, is he sick?
Right.
Is there something wrong with him? Is there something that is hurting him, right? Because a dog doesn't just go from sweet little teddy bear to this.
Correct.
Right? And so there has to be something that is going on that is causing this, right? And so at this point, I still believe that's probably the case.
Yeah, UTI.
Yes, UTI was a big one.
Right.
That was one that was for sure.
Yeah, so anything, and that's what we thought too. So, but yeah, so finally, I ended up going inside the van, behind the kennel, and reaching around and unlatching the door. And Josh is just like, and Josh is on the phone the whole time, so he's hearing everything that's going on.
He goes in the van so that Kim is the one that gets attacked instead of him.
Yeah. So
And I'm trying to picture in my head as Kim's being like, oh, now he's going in the van. Now, and I'm trying to picture how this thing is going. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall.
right. Yep. So we go to, I get the door open, and as soon as I open that door, he's growling at me the whole time. Like, I'm reaching around the kennel, he can see me through the vent holes, and he's growling at me the whole time. And as soon as that door unlatched and came open, dead silent. Not like one peep. He didn't get out, but he was just like, you could see there was more of a calm that came over him. And so Josh is just like, just let him come out himself. He'll figure it out. When he's ready to come out, he'll come out. And so we did. He goes, it may take an hour. It may take 5 minutes. It may take 2 hours. Just let him come out on his own. And we never said a word to him, just sat inside the van. And he, about after, I think it was about 10 minutes, he made his way out. And once he made his way out, it was just like our first, initial 2-minute introduction 5 hours earlier. He came over, petted him. Everything was cool. Of course, I was a little leery just because of the situation I had went through 10 minutes earlier. But he was super cool. And of course, he starts peeing on everything in my garage.
Well, you also had, I think at the time, wasn't Timber just going to come into
Timber
heat?
was in heat.
Or she was in heat.
Yes.
That's the perfect storm.
Right. So, yeah, so he's marking himself, claiming his territory in my garage. And, Kim's like, she goes back inside for something. And they had sent me home with a dog bed. He had a bone of some sort, like a hard bone, and a Kong toy of some sort. And so I was like, just trying to be buddy with him, because like Josh had told me, he's like, man, he's probably just looking for a friend, and you need to be his buddy. And I'm like, okay, so just instinctively, I'm like, well, I'll get his bone for him, and just maybe it's something that he likes, and blah blah, and give him his bone. He takes it, no problem. He comes back over, and I went to take it from him, and he growled at me. I'm like, oh boy. And then Kim comes back in the garage. He goes walking right up to her, and she took the bone from him, and he didn't say a word. I'm like, well, what in the world? And she looks at me. She says something to the point of, he just likes girls.
Yeah, he found his buddy.
He found his buddy. It wasn't me. Right. So, finally, I put a leash back on him that obviously take him. I have a detached garage, so I took him from my detached garage to the house. When we have 3 dogs that I need to introduce this dog to, and we did it slowly. We did it. I knew my older dog. He's just sometimes grumpy. He's getting at that age. He's fond of the dogs at home, loves the dogs at home, but sometimes newer dogs, he just leave me alone type attitude. And so Timber was the second one we brought out, just because with her being in heat, that was the last thing that I wanted was, him, whatever with her. Yeah. And so we made our introductions. Those were all good. Get him inside. Everything's cool. He did mark himself a few times in the house, which I guess was expected because it's new territory for him. There's 3 dogs there. There's 1 male dog there. Obviously, just the natural alpha in a dog, wanting to mark their territory. So
and the heat thing,
the heat thing. Yeah, Timber's just, she was like 5 days from her prime, so to speak, into her cycle.
Yeah,
so
because you were just gonna come up to have her bred
correct.
In the next day, maybe.
Yeah, I was leaving. So we got Deuce Monday. We launched Retriever Roadmap on Tuesday. I drove to Wisconsin on Wednesday.
Yep.
And then we went to Pheasant Fest and all that stuff. So anyhow, get him in. Everything's cool. He actually there was no problems, no nothing. So they sent home this dog bed, and you could tell he was uncomfortable. Obviously, it's a new spot, and new smells, and new people, and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to make him comfortable. In my mind, I'm just trying to make him, as comfortable as possible. So I bring this dog bed in, lay this dog bed down, and I lay down with him, just, trying to, not like on the bed, but on the carpet with him. And I laid, I was like trying to tell him the place. And I have no idea what training or anything this dog's been through. So I just know that, he's a 4-year-old dog that's duck hunted and had a lot of retrieves. And, that's the extent that I know of him, that he's not had any issues in the past, blah, blah, blah. So, and I I tried to get him the place on that bed and he growled at me. I'm like, man, what in the world? So right away, first thing in my head's like, all right, I'm going to take because right now I've introduced him to 2 things that was at his old house in my house. And both times with those two things, he's growled at me. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm starting over. I'm taking everything or anything that may be associated with where he just came from, and I'm getting rid of it. And, I'm going to start fresh with him. And that rest of the night, he was cool. So fast forward, that night, super restless. We kept him in our room, just because at this point, and talking to the previous owners, I'm thinking that a lot of his triggers were around a kennel, and that's where he seemed to be having the most issues. And obviously my first several hours with this dog, that's where I was seeing the issues as well.
You agreed.
I agreed. So he stayed in our room, and he just was super restless, obviously, because he, just with everything going on. And I ended up getting on the ground with him and sleeping on the ground with him. He actually warmed up to me and slept right next to me, and no problem. So Monday, Tuesday comes, had a couple small things, nothing, but he seems good. We're off. I feel that we're off on the right track. Obviously I'm not doing anything with him yet. Just trying to get him comfortable. And so, we get up Wednesday, and I load Timber in the kennel that's in my cab. She's in a Lucky Duck kennel that's in my back seat. And then Deuce, he rode with me as well. So we drive up to Josh's.
But no crate.
No crate, because I didn't have, not ideal, but I just, I didn't want just with her in there, and then it was raining and everything else on my trip. So yes, he rode shotgun with me.
So I think this is one of those situations, though, that yes, the crate's the safest place for them to travel. Yes, right. It's where they're the most under control. But in this situation, when you have identified that the crate is the place that triggers this issue, why would you go put them in a crate?
Right. I didn't want to go through what I just went through, a couple days ago.
Right.
So yeah, he rode shotgun with me, and there were times that he tried to climb in my lap. I got center console. He'd lay his head across the center console, and I petted him. We drove, and it was a long trip because traffic and the weather. It poured, and Chicago's terrible to begin with, but it poured from, just before Chicago, all the way to Rockford, Illinois. And so anyhow, it was a long trip. So I'm in the truck with this dog, 11 hours sitting shotgun. And I get 2 miles from Josh's house, and I just reach over. I've petted this dog probably 70 times in that 11 hours. And I go to reach over to pet him, and he growls at me. I'm like,
but wasn't he asleep?
He was. He had just woke up.
Yeah.
He had just woke up and sat up. We were right before the airport here coming down the road. And yeah, I just reached over. Hey, buddy. And that's what I said to him. Hey, buddy. And I got I'm like, okay, go back to sleep. So.
And I think what we had decided in that particular instance that he was, again, putting ourselves in his shoes.
Right.
His world turned upside down. He still doesn't really know who you are,
right.
Where he is, what's going on. He does know that he's felt like he has had to be defensive. And he wakes up trying to figure out what's going on. And you felt like that was maybe what triggered that one.
Yeah. He probably woke up and was expecting to see somebody else, and he saw me, and he didn't like that. So he was startled. So anyhow, get to Josh's, get him out. Josh has never seen him. and
Not since he was 7
not
weeks
since
old.
he was 7 weeks
he
old.
went home, yeah.
Yep. So get him out, and they had a couple crates that they had brought dogs over. They were larger crates, a little more holes to them.
They're the crates that when we ship dogs in from overseas, they have to have this certain size of a crate,
Right.
which you can fit a dang horse in. I mean, they're enormous, but it's I won't get into my opinion of this, but there's just no reason that you need a shipping container sized crate to ship a dog in. But they have to be able to stand up, they have to be able to move around, they have to, like, I get all that stuff, but they're huge.
Right.
But they're very, they're very open and ventilated and so on.
Yep. Yeah. So, we get them inside, and obviously, like, again, what we said, right now we're thinking that a lot of his triggers is revolving around a kennel. So get him in the garage. He marks himself a couple times in Josh's garage, and I took him out they got an airing yard in their backyard, and I took him out there, and everything's been great, and put him inside that fence. And when I walked back up to let him out, he didn't hardly move from where the gate entrance was. So when I went back up just to say, "Hey buddy, what's up?" Again, with that barrier in between us, he growled at me. So what I did was I walked down the fence line with him, and he followed me, and we got down to the other fence line where, your yard changed a little bit. The fence is you had a lot of snow at that time. So the snow had drifted up on the one end, and there wasn't, still a barrier, but not much. He could jump on the fence, and I was able to, pet him, and I pet him, no problem. Walk back down to that gate, would growl at me. And I'm like, man, what the heck is going on with this dog?
Again, consistent with the barrier and the door and everything else, right?
Yes, correct. Yep. So now, granted, Josh and I are going to Pheasant Fest at this time. So, obviously he's not going to go with us. So Whitney was going to be taking care of him. And, obviously with the uncertainty of the things that were going on, another nice thing with this kennel was, and I mean, we could have did it with any kennel, but with the size of this kennel, there was 3 latches, but you could unlatch it without him seeing you. And I think that helped. You were able to step off to the side of the kennel, and there was a spot where he couldn't necessarily see you. He would be able to see the movements, but you didn't make eye-to-eye contact with him. And so that made it a little easier, because once he was out of that kennel, he was fine. But
he was a big baby when you take him out.
Big baby when you took him out. Yep. So Josh and I went away for a couple days. Whitney just said there were just a couple small little growls, nothing major. Big baby didn't growl at her when he was actually would run out to the airing yard, no problem. Never growled at her through that. I'm like, okay, maybe he's starting to settle in or whatever. So we get back. We had a little. We were watching basketball. I think it was the NCAA tournament, and a couple of days before I was going home, because I was gone for 2 weeks. We went to Pheasant Fest, and we came back. We finished train retrieve, and then I ended up going home. But so we had
Train retrieve for Retriever Roadmap.
Roadmap, yes. So we had some buddies over, and we're watching some basketball. I think the Badgers might have been playing, and one of my, these 2 guys had come over. One of them, he's like, "Oh, you got a new dog," and we told him the story. I'm just like, "Hey, be cautious." And he goes over and sticks his head right in front of that kennel, and
like very fastly walks up to it, face right into it.
Right. And guess what happened?
Yep.
He got, he let him know that he didn't like him sitting, right in front of his face.
His reaction was priceless. And right away he goes, "Well, I shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't have.
No, you shouldn't have. So, but, so that was still, he had improved, I guess, from, up to that point. That was one of those situations. But there again, let him out, no problem. And it got to the point before I left, I was able, because I started testing him, I just wanted to see where he's at. I started testing him and get in front of I started opening the kennel in front of him. And I would feed him in the kennel. So it got to the point where I left Wisconsin. I had already started to see some improvement, and we got him home, and it was just like he had been there. Remember, he's only been at my house for a day and a half, and then we left to go to Wisconsin. So I'm still nervous now that he's been associated and acquainted to Josh's house and Josh's dogs, because there was a few days we got him out with the other dogs. I made him honor and kept him on a leash and made him honor, and you worked your dogs. I threw some marks for him. And when, on my way home, I'm thinking, man, now I'm putting him back in an entirely different situation. What's going to happen? And
you were worried about the consistency.
Was worried about the consistency. Yep. And I got him home, and he was great, and no issues. Never growled at me when I got 2 miles from my house. Got him out of the truck, no problem. Got him inside. He was happy to see the other dogs. Yes, he marked again a few times. That's all.
Which you've since gotten over.
Right. Which I've since gotten over. Right. So, so now we're over 2 months with Deuce, and he's an entirely different dog. Like I just told Dave today, because Deuce is Dave at the kennel. Mm-hmm. That's his litter mate, Hemi, who you guys, if you do watch Retriever Roadmap, Hemi goes through train retrieve, and that's his litter mate. And then there's another dog that I've seen, Gus. Mm-hmm. I've been up here and actually have photos of Gus. I came up here for a photo shoot, and Gus was a superb,
another great
dog.
Yep.
Yeah. So, just the whole question of, man, what or why, how, that triggered him. But since I've been home in the 2 months, it's been a month. We've had 2 small little issues. And what I mean by issues is both times he likes water bottles, loves empty water bottles, or he loves full water bottles. If there's a water bottle on the ground, he will go pick it up. And with me, we have become buddies. We play. I've been training him, throw bumpers for him. The dog absolutely loves to retrieve. He's realized that I'm his buddy, and I'm his everything to him right now. I mean, he follows me everywhere I go. As I told Dave today, I was like, that dog is always 2 steps in front of me, because he just wants to be with me at all times. And, so back to the water bottle thing, my second oldest daughter, she thinks Deuce is his or hers. And she claimed Deuce from the moment we said we were getting him. Oh, he's my dog, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, you going to train him? Well, no, he's just my dog. So 2 water bottle incidents where he had an empty water bottle. And the first one, he just had it, and I went to take it from him, or she went to take it from him, and he growled at her. And I was right there, and I had no Deuce, and I took it from him with no instance or no issues. And then the second issue was the same thing, water bottle. She took it from him the first time, no problem, never said a word, but then for whatever reason, she thought it was a game and gave it back to him. And the second time she went to take it from him, he gave a little growl. Now, the growl was more of to me, was sometimes, when dogs are playing with things, they give that little playful, growl. That's what I first took it as, because there hasn't been much issue, and he's just been a big baby. You can get on the ground with him, and he just fine and dandy. And she took it from him a second time from that growl, and then gave it back to him the third time. And I'm like, at this point, I'm a little upset. I'm like, what are you doing? We all know that we still have to handle him with kid gloves. Mm-hmm. And she took that water bottle from him the second time, and he didn't like that. Mm-hmm. He growled, barked kind of thing. And I said no right away, and he looked at me right away. He's like, I screwed up. And I, in this instance, we always pray, we talk about that the kennel is never a negative, right? But he knew at that point, he got up, he went running to his kennel. That was a safe place. So right there, I was just like, okay, now this dog went from, wanting to eat you from inside of his kennel to where he's now going into the kennel by himself. Now, he knew he was wrong, but now all of a sudden he realizes, because we had fed him in his kennel, we feed him still in his kennel. That's where he eats. And he went in there all by himself and knew, you could tell by the look on his face that he was in the wrong. And so I closed the door and let him sit in there for 5 minutes and let him out. And as soon as he come out, he went right over to her and laid on the ground, wanted his belly rubbed, and they were back to buddy. So, and since then, we have not had an issue. Like I said, there are times, where it's still in my mind where, what if, right? I mean, I'm probably sure it's always going to be that way just because of, some of the things. And I guess I should back up just a little bit. Like when we were in Wisconsin, I did take him to the vet. They ran some blood work on him because maybe, we didn't know if he had a tumor, if he, if he was sick, if he had a UTI, anything. And his blood work all came back fine. So, we just put it as, a possible behavioral issue. But he is a different dog. He literally, when I go to the basement, he's the first one down the steps to go to, that's where my office is at. He goes down there. When I work, he lays under my desk. When I sleep, he lays next to me. When I get up, he gets up. When I go outside, he wants to go outside. When I get in my truck, he wants to get in my truck. It's just, it's truly amazing that 2 months ago, I was afraid for my life that I was going to open that kennel and this dog was going to eat me, to now, I mean, he rolls over for belly rubs. He's always wanting to give kisses. He reminds me of Brock. Sometimes he wants to get up on your, like in your face of the thing, and just wants petted and loved and give me a hug and, all that stuff. And yeah, he's a different dog, and we've been training. I knew that we had some obedience issues, just because when I let him outside, his listening was not good. He just is a typical male dog that wasn't very obedient. Once his nose hits the ground, you can call him 1,000 times and he's just going to do what he wants to do. And that's what we saw. So we've been putting him through retriever roadmap, going through, we're starting from the very beginning, 4-year-old dog. And because I don't know, I mean, the dog's obviously had training before. I can see it, everything that's going on. But, just for my sake, I want to put him through everything. So we went through on leash. I put him through collar conditioning. And the reason why I did that is because when I took him on leash, he was still very good. When I took him off leash, his off leash work was still sloppy. It was better, but it was still sloppy. So I wanted to introduce the collar just because, that's a long leash, right? So once he gets away from me, I can just like a trainer lead, I can give him that pressure to get him back to where he needs to be. And his obedience it's gone 180 degrees. He's doing fantastic. And, we started bumper work. The dog absolutely loves to retrieve. He's got a motor on him, just like his daddy. His mouth is so natural with his mouth. I don't know if he went through any kind of, force fetch or anything, but he's just so natural with his mouth. He just, he's turning into an incredible dog. And I can't wait to continue down this map with him.
So, first off, my goodness. I mean, the roller coaster that you have had the last couple months is incredible. I mean, okay, you had timber into it, like circus,
Right.
like just craziness.
Yep.
Here's what I think is so neat about this. So, you put yourself in a situation that, quite frankly, not many people would. One, you're taking on an older dog that you know nothing about, and this is the reality. And we talk about this with anybody that wants to bring a rescue dog to us for training, is that we don't know what we don't know, and we're never gonna know. And so you have to be okay with that, and you have to accept that, right? So, example. We had a rescue dog come into the kennel a couple years ago that whenever we went to put the leash on, like super, super, super defensive, right? Or anytime we picked up anything that looked like a whip or like a stick, like even just a stick, like super defensive. And the owner's like, well, I don't know where that's coming from. I'm like, I know you don't, because you got this dog at 2 years old. You have no idea what happened early in the dog's life. Like you will never know, right? That's what I think is so neat about you with this one, is that you took a dog on, you knew had a bunch of baggage, you knew you had hurdles, and quite frankly, Deuce wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you.
No.
There's no way.
No.
And now, the first thing when you got here, so you drove late into the night, you got here, and you came over for our morning workout early on Monday morning. And one of the first things you said to me was, man, I think Deuce is going to be something.
Yep.
To go from a dog that you don't know if you can open up that door to a couple months later to you think this dog is going to be something.
Yep.
And you have had dogs, you know, like you're around all this, you know, it's like, it's literally, it's life-changing for him. But I think it's such an admirable thing to appreciate, because so many of us, we have dogs we've had from puppies. And it's so easy to get into these like poor me situations of like, oh, I can't get over this. Oh, I don't have the property to train. Oh, I don't have access to birds. Oh, poor me. I can't do. And it's like, okay, here you are taking a dog that you know nothing about, that you don't know is like, is this an aggression thing? Is this a defensiveness thing? Is this ever something we can get over? Am I going to get my hand bit off one of these days? And here you are in a very short period amount of time. And now you're sitting here going, dude, this dog's going to be something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And to me, it just shows the work. And a couple things. One, I think it shows he's not an aggressive dog.
No.
Right? Like, you'd agree with that?
No, he was scared, and he wasn't for sure why he was scared.
Mm-hmm. Something happened in that crate.
Something happened.
Yeah. Something happened. I think something happened around that crate just from what we saw.
For sure.
But something happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, we will never know. But you have found a way to make really good lemonade out of really sour lemons.
Yes.
And it's just a really incredible, you know, thing. And I think that's what's so neat about this thing. We're going to keep up, you know, with you and Deuce, and hopefully you'll give us updates, you know, when you come back on, and let us know how he's doing. But I mean, just like you were talking yesterday about run hunt test with him.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
It's the difference. I mean, from you know, someone saying that this dog has to be put down to, in a couple months span, you going, man, I need to find where the next hunt test is.
Yep.
Like that's a huge difference. Yeah. So I just thought that was such a neat story. Hopefully that motivates, you know, everyone out there, you know, to, you know, find whatever hurdle you're feeling like is in front of you, and just mentally shrink that thing. You know, like, there are way bigger hurdles out there. There are way bigger issues that you might be having to, you know, get over. Find a way over it. Find a way through that thing, because at the grand scheme of things, like, man, like I had to deal with this week, I had to deal with the dog that I trained that died. Not with me, my goodness. But she was 7 years old. Yeah, I trained her when she was 2. And heartbreaking. Like, hate talking to the owner, because they're devastated, right? Hate hearing this, hate, thinking, naturally all the memories come into my mind. It's like I remember her, Millie was her name, and she was a golden retriever, and Millie, like I remember running marks with her. I remember putting on her first ever bird. I remember all this stuff, and so they're way bigger hurdles you can have out there. So find a way through the adversity, go be successful, and you'll look back on it and laugh. Yeah. Really, I mean, we'll look back just like we did on that story of Kim telling you, just open the kennel door already,
Yep.
and now here he is cuddling in bed with you at
That's
night.
right. Yep. Yeah, I could have easily given up on him. I mean,
easily.
The couple times that he snapped, I could have easily said, you know what, this isn't going to work out. But
you saw something in him that I don't even know if I did.
Yep.
Because my first thought is, man, I was a wreck when we were at Pheasant Fest, because I have my wife who is 110 pounds and a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old that if my 1.5-year-old son, like he runs around the yard half the time. I feel like I don't even know where he is.
Right.
Like what if he gets around that crate, sticks his hand in there, something like that? Like, I don't know, like I was nervous about it.
Me too.
And then, but then you bring, him home, and of course, naturally, you're nervous about it, being a dad, around your kids. But if you hadn't seen something in him from the get-go, there's no way you would have ever taken that chance.
Yep.
And so I think it's just a really unique and special thing that you were able to see that.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun, and like I said, like you said, he's going to be something.
Yeah,
he's going to be something.
Yeah,
so it's going to be fun.
It'll be cool. We'll keep up on it for sure. So this was a long one. It was good to have a long one every.
I was a little winded.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's great.
You got to tell the story.
Yeah, it's a great story, man. It's one that it's fun to appreciate, those types of situations, for sure.
And I'm sure there's people listening that probably be like, man, what is he doing? You know, and I don't know. I just
look at you now.
Right.
And the one part we didn't talk about, he loves his crate now.
Loves his crate. Absolutely loves it. Yeah, I've totally left that part out. We feed him in his crate, and he is hilarious to watch, especially at dinner time. We still feed him in the crate. He sprints to that thing. So, my house is kind of blocked off. We have an older home, so it's not like an open concept. So it's like our bedroom, then our kitchen, and then our front room. And so it's kind of our bedroom is adjacent to our front room, but he has to run basically a U to get there, so to speak. And it is hilarious because he takes off sprinting, and he bangs into one wall, and then he hits the kitchen table, and then he hits the back of that kennel, and then he sticks his head out, and I always pet him. Good boy, Deuce, and then stick his food in there, and he waits till you, say his name to be fed, and I'll shut the door quietly, let him eat. He eats his food, and then after 5 or 10 minutes, I'll open the crate bag up. Deuce, he comes barreling back out just as happy as can be. So
never a growl,
never a growl.
Issue.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
Another thing that I didn't say earlier is like he through the barrier. Like one of the first night that we had him home, we got a storm door, and I just like bent down. He was outside. I was like bent down, hey buddy, and he growled at me then too. It was a barrier. Yeah. So
well, and what we had kind of determined is that we felt like something happened. We felt like he felt like he had to be defensive about a barrier. So we don't know. There's a lot of, out of respect,
Sure.
we won't talk about what we think,
For sure.
right? But we think that something happened regarding a barrier, regarding him feeling like he needed to protect that barrier and be defensive over it, right? Because if you got through that barrier, who knows, right? So he felt he had to be defensive. But man, like today, you've gotten all the way over that.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's a really neat thing.
Yeah.
I think it's an awesome story, and I think it's one that I think is just going to get better and better because, man, like you've gone 0 to 60 really fast now with where you were to where you are now.
Yeah.
So it's a cool thing. But we're gonna wrap it up here. So remember, go to Retriever Roadmap and go use the code DUK Dogs, DUK DOGS, DUK Dogs. Get your $100 off before June 1st, before that expires, and make sure you go let us know how you are enjoying that course, because I think it'll really, really help you guys. So, Bret, thank you again.
Thank
for
you.
being here.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it really is, and it breaks things up really nicely for me, so I don't have to sit and talk to the wall. So, anyways, hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk with you guys soon.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.